The following program may contain strong language and mature content. Viewer discretion is advised.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Dante Show Special Edition, Conversations with Clergy. Hopefully, you guys have been tuning into dynamic discussions between myself and members of the Black Church, primarily pastors, elders, bishops, all that kind of stuff. And these conversations are designed to really bridge the gap between communities of faith and the research community. And it's very important that Black people are kept abreast of what is going on out there when it comes to medical research, medical advancements in science, and particularly right now in this certain dispensation in time, COVID-19. And as we all know, COVID-19 has just really hit so many different areas of the Black community hard. So what I am trying to do is use my voice, use my platform to really bring in some faith leaders, bring in those who have a voice and influence in the community to help us further address COVID-19, HIV, the vaccines and all that. Hey there, Jonathan, I see you, fam. Thanks for tuning in to Conversations with Clergy, and I am glad to have you here. So I am Dr. Dante Morrison, and this is something, like I said, that I am doing to really start normalizing conversations about vaccines and vaccine trials so that people can really understand it and make informed decisions and not just pull out sound bites to make them the most comfortable. Hey, Bobo to love, how are you doing? How are you doing? So this is the third edition. This is the third episode, and today's guest is my brother, friend, Pastor Cedric Nelms, and I'm excited to have him on the show. So I just want to let y'all know, Clergy Conversations, it is sponsored. By funding from the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center and operates in alignment with the HIV Vaccine Trials Network. The HVTN is the world's largest publicly funded international collaboration facilitating the evaluation of vaccines to prevent HIV/AIDS. And the HVTN helps advance the fields of vaccinology, social and behavioral sciences, statistics, and immunology, as well as tuberculosis and COVID-19 vaccines. All right, bet. So right now, invite your friends, family, cousins, and loved ones to get up in this conversation, and let's chop this tree down with my brother, friend, Pastor Cedric Nelms. Bro.
What's up, man? Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you. Hey, before we went live, I see you getting your read on.
Exactly. I'm over here trying to read and get my study on, man. I got these papers I got to submit because the brother's in seminary, man. So
I love it. That's what it's all about, Black man learning.
Exactly.
So you go ahead and just tell the folks who you are and what you do, and I'm gonna invite some people up in this conversation.
Well, I mean, Cedric Nelms, I pastor a church. I pastor Chosen Generation Fellowship Church. We're over in the South Bay part of Los Angeles. I'm also the founder and CEO of Community Bridge Connectors Resource Center, and also just started working with an organization, nonprofit organization dealing with educational equity by the name of Innovate Schools as an organizer. I'm a husband. I'm a father of 5 dynamically and marvelously made children, ranging in age from 35 all the way down to my triplets that are 21. And I'm a LA dude, born and raised in LA. So, stepped out a little bit to go down to Atlanta and go to one of the premier HBCUs in the nation, the Morehouse College, and been back ever since. And so that's a little bit about me, bro.
And y'all Morehouse brothers, y'all strong with that Morehouse. Y'all take that to the heart.
Yeah,
Like
we
it's
take
like
yeah,
stamped.
yeah. It's almost like it's in our bloodstream, man. It's like it's like being a part of a fraternity or something, man.
Right. Y'all were 100 about it. And I love it. I love it. I love it. Hey, so are you ready to dive into this conversation? Because I
Let's
think
go.
it's so important. And I love the fact that I am finding clergy that who are interested in engaging in these conversations because it's really been difficult. It's
Mhm.
really been difficult getting a lot of pastors to really just sit down with me and have this real honest conversation. Like, let's just really dive into this and see what is going on. What is the real issue? What is the problem? What is the challenge? Why do folks feel that vaccines and all that kind of stuff that it's out to get us? And
Mhm.
I get the medical mistrust, I get the medical trauma, I get all of that, but we got to start having more mature and healthy conversations about this
Mhm.
because we're really getting behind the eight ball with a lot of that. So I want to start one with HIV because that's one thing that we're talking about vaccines, and then we got COVID-19. So why do you think, from your perspective, why do you think HIV is still a major problem within the Black community?
Yeah, we don't like to talk about stuff like that. I think when you deal with, especially when you're dealing with HIV, stems from a deeper conversation. So it's like an onion. It's not just HIV. It's what it brings about. And so we are not able to be honest with ourselves that the stigma that's attached to HIV, we're not willing to discuss the stigma that's attached to it. And so, therefore, we don't like to have those conversations. We don't like to have, uh, we don't want to paint ourselves in a bad light as a community, um, that it is what it is. And so, we will, how can I say this in a way that's politically correct? It's better for us to get some of the other sexually transmitted diseases than it is for us to get HIV. And so we'll deal with that, but we won't deal with the HIV part.
And man, and the fact that that's still a situation, it speaks
Right.
volumes. It
Right.
speaks volumes, because I guess we know that if we're gonna talk about HIV, we got to unpack a whole lot of stuff,
Right.
and we got to get to the core and the root. And a lot of times we want to just pull the fruit off the tree,
Mm-hmm.
and throw the bad fruit away. But when you're trying to get to the root of why is this tree producing all this bad fruit,
Right.
we just sit back and hope, well, it'll go away one day when folks get their life together, you know. And I think that's been the hopes of a lot of people when it comes to COVID-19. It's like, well, if I sit back and I just sit back long enough, this too shall pass. And we have all these biblical mantras and quotes and whatnot, where God's gonna keep me, and I don't need signs tell me what to do. My steps are ordered by the Lord. But at some point, we have to use that wisdom and get a true understanding. So, has the COVID-19, just from your work as clergy and as a pastor, has it disrupted the functions of the Black church?
Yes and no. I think it's disrupted the functions of the Black church from a community perspective, because some of the people that are entrusted to the care of us as pastors are the ones who are fighting, that land on either side of the fence. So you have some that are a supporter and promoter of vaccination. You have some that are not and are very staunch in that. The reason I say yes and no is because it has actually helped the Black church to get a little bit more relevancy in the community,
Hmm.
because with the pandemic shutting down the building, we had to pivot and look for some other way to engage with the community outside of inviting them into our sacred sanctuary space. So through vaccinations, this has given the Black church an opportunity to go outside of the four walls and actually step into a space of health and wellness, providing an opportunity to those in the community, not just through vaccinations. I know some churches that they were doing vaccinations and they were handing out food as well, or
Mhm.
or support and supplies for students because they knew the kids were at home under quarantine, or
Mhm.
diapers and all this other kind of stuff. So it's actually allowed for the Black church um, to have another tentacle, another arm, if you will, of impacting and engaging with the community.
I like how you really broke down that it gave the church an opportunity to be more of a community resource,
Right.
and providing another avenue to reach the community. Because when it comes to the Black church, the Black community, if it ain't diabetes, we ain't talking about it. Yeah, if you ain't got the sugar, then we ain't got to address all that.
And we're not gonna talk about the fact that the reason you got sugar is because you keep eating that homegoing cake and punch after
Right.
the service. You're not gonna talk about that. Okay.
Exactly.
Oh, we keep having these French fries and barbecue dinner
Right, man.
sandwiches and stuff. We ain't gonna talk about
Because that pound cake has been passed down. That lemon cake been passed down. If nothing else, the Black church gonna feed you. You
that.
gonna
They
eat
go,
good.
yeah, you gonna eat
You know.
good. You may have to pay for it with your medical bill,
Right.
but that's
Right.
okay.
Exactly. I see my brother Rod Hines joining in. What's up, Rod? How are you doing? He's also going to be another clergy who's going to be getting interviewed. So I'm glad to see my brothers just really jumping on this thing. So last week I had Reverend Najuma Smith. She's a
Yes.
beast. My first was Pastor Cedric Bridgeforth. He's a beast. And then right here, my
Yes.
other brother, Pastor Cedric Nelms. So here we go. So from a personal perspective, and this is where you can just be honest. Either I am or I ain't. What are your thoughts about vaccines and vaccine trials?
Well, when this thing first hit, man, I said I was going to be the last, not only the last Black man, I was going to be the last person on earth to get vaccinated. The reason that I kind of changed my outlook on that is because I talked to some people who have a connection to those who work in that area of vaccine trials. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the persons that I talked to said that when you deal with vaccines and you deal with vaccine trials, that's something that's constantly going. So it wasn't like they were not prepared or they had not been doing trials previously because they knew something like this would probably happen. So it wasn't a knee-jerk response. That's the first thing. The other thing was I had to realize that I needed to do what I needed to do for my family. I had a wife that was going through chemotherapy, so her immune system was totally, how can I say, weak.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I had parents that are aging.
Mm-hmm.
That when they first came out, if you're 65 and over, you need to be very watchful. So it was always this othering, which changed my position on vaccination. As far as the vaccine trials are concerned, I know that they're always working on something. The medical profession is not like some of us as humans, to wherein we wait until the lights get cut off to say, "Oh, dang, we should have paid that light bill last
Right.
week."
Right.
No,
Right. Right. Right.
research and development is something that's always continuous, and they're always trying to figure out how to get in front of some of the things that we experience. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I got that information, I kind of became a little bit more open to being vaccinated myself.
So you actually had to take the time to sit down to really challenge your ignorance
Hmm.
about vaccine. Now, do you think that's something that many are willing to do? Because there's a thing called willful ignorance, which allows people to stay right where they're at because it's kind of comfortable and safe. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think people have taken the opportunity, and the one thing that I've learned, Dante, is we as a community of people are not monolithic. I
Mhm.
think that the last two presidencies have taught us that, Obama's presidency and even Trump's presidency. Black people as a whole, we're not monolithic. So we don't think the same way, we don't talk the same way, we don't walk the same way, we don't have the same feelings. And so there are some people who have done the research and they just chosen not to do it. And that's their choice. I do think that there are some who are just willfully ignorant. They are not going to do it because it's coming from the government. And of course, that takes us back to the Tuskegee experiment. I've heard it all. How they pretty much brutalize our bodies and whatnot. And I get all of that. But I think if you're doing it and you have not done your research, that's willful ignorance. If you've done your research and you're still able to say, no, I don't want to do it, I'm fine with that because you've done the work.
Right. Yeah. You can make a knowledgeable decision.
Right.
You can make a choice based upon knowledge and understanding, and not
Right.
just, like I said earlier, sound bites and speculation and rumor
Right.
mills.
Thank you.
So from that, how can science? Because basically, this is me. So I'm the faith-based ambassador, for the HBTN, and my job is to work with the Black church to really promote, awareness about HIV and COVID vaccines. What can science do better to introduce this kind of stuff to the Black community? Where is there a gap?
I think the best way is what we're doing, which is to communicate. People just want to know. We have to over communicate. We have to over educate. I think we need to create more town hall type action to where people can be brought to a specific location. The information is doled out to them, and then they can ask questions and begin to ascertain where they are and maybe find out more about what it is that is being promoted as good for them. I go back to the flu shot. I was one who did not get flu shots every year because I felt like I was healthy, because I felt like I ate right, I exercised, all of that. I didn't do flu shots. There are some people who feel the same way about the vaccination as well. And yeah, there are certain natural ways for us to fight this thing off. But I think when it comes to science, I think there is just this undercurrent of distrust when it comes to science because of past experiments that have been done on our bodies. And so to change that, science has got to come into, how I like to say, science has got to come into our garden and be willing to take their shoes off and to listen to our experience in relationship to science.
I like that. Take the shoes off and come on in, and then just sit down.
Right.
Just sit down and let us talk.
Yep.
And then we can massage a way to best work together. Because I think I don't want to say that Black people don't want to.
Right.
But there needs to be something that's gonna restore any kind of hope and trust within the science community, because it's really skewed right now.
Well, it's skewed. And I think the other thing, Dante, as we were joking about earlier, when we talk about even the sugar, when we talk about hypertension, high blood pressure, we are known not to go to the doctor. And especially us as Black men, we have to almost be drug and pushed to go to the doctor. So we got to first get over that before we can talk about any vaccinations or anything like that. We got to first talk about just going to get annual checkups and being okay with the results of knowing what's going on with our bodies before we talk about flu shots, before we talk about vaccinations and all that kind of stuff. So that's a discussion that I think we have to broaden with our faith-based communities to where, and this is something that my wife shared with me that she wants to see for our church, which is to have more health and wellness, having conversations about breast cancer, having more conversations about prostate cancer, having more conversations about hypertension and congestive heart failure and arthritis, having a health and wellness week or month or health or wellness Sunday to get people educated on certain things.
And not waiting until it hits you or a loved one.
Right.
So come from more of a prepare instead of a repair mindset.
Exactly.
Let's
Exactly.
prepare folks, to live healthy and all that, instead of coming on the tail end
Right.
and saying, well, you one step away from getting your foot amputated. Now we got to modify your whole diet.
Thank you.
So just
Thank you.
having I love that. Just creating a wellness mindset within the church. But
Hmm.
then here's my question: do you feel that the Black church still has the trust of the Black community?
Ooh, Dante.
Because there's been a lot of
Ooh.
stuff going on within the Black church, and I've been trying to ride hard, you know. But when it comes to this, the church and pastors doing a clarion call to the Black community, is the Black community going to respond like they did during the civil rights era? Is the Black community going to open their windows and say, oh, I hear the bells ringing, here I come?
No. No. We have to move past what was into what is. And what is that, and I know that I may get some slack. I may not get invited to the next pastoral luncheon or whatever. We got to stop looking for our Dr. King. We got to stop looking for our Moses. We got to stop looking, and I don't mean this literally, but figuratively. We got to stop looking for our Black Jesus and understand that it's a collective move that we have to make. The Black church has got to be okay with understanding that collaboration and partnership is how we have to move forward, because we're living with a generation of folks to wherein, with me having young folks that are 21, they're not looking to the church for the answer. They're not even looking to their pastor for the answer. They are looking to other areas to find answer and connect that back. So the Black church has got to get better, really, at being an open air shopping complex, to where we take the roof off the building and allow for different pieces to come and to feed the spirit of the people. And we, instead of hooking our caboose to it, we just come alongside and say, hey, if this is what you're doing, we believe in this, let's work together.
I love it. I love it. I love it. One more question before we wrap it up. Do you think Black churches, or let's just say Black pastors, would welcome research-driven conversations about HIV and COVID vaccines during Sunday morning worship? And I
Well,
asked this question to my last two pastors that I've had. One said no, because pastors ain't finna give up all that time for all that conversation, because they got to get the word out and they got to hoop. And then one said, well, yes, I would do it because I need the people to be educated and informed, because this is important. So now I want to hear what you have to say.
well, I think that I don't mind coloring outside the lines. We had a conversation at the intersection table talk at our church that you were on the panel for. That was doing Sunday morning. So for me, because I can't speak over another man or woman's house, for me, yeah, you could have my Sunday morning for that. And I think if enough pastors would allow it, we can sometimes look and see what somebody else is doing, and we don't ever want somebody to outdo us. So it would spread like a virus, because certain pastors would be doing it and they would see the benefit of it. Because now, people coming out of, I don't even know if I want to say coming out of a pandemic, but just kind of things kind of getting back to some sense of the new normal.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would behoove pastors to shift from having to have 100% of the mic time, because people are going to want to come to church and be in fellowship and relationship, but people also want to know what's going on.
Right. And I think
So,
I like how you talked about it earlier. Like we're in a new season.
yeah.
COVID shifted the mindset of a lot of people, and it put the church in a position to really be a resource center for all kinds of things. And now the people are hungry, they're thirsty for just knowledge. And in addition to that, I think it's important that the church does become that hub again. that hub of trusted information that is disseminated from the pulpit, that the people really can be like, yes, my pastor has studied, he's learned, he's connected, and he understands the core problem of what we're dealing with. Also, there's going to be a lot of trauma once these gates lift, because people, they couldn't even bury their loved ones during a certain season within this pandemic. So they don't have time for games. They don't have time for all that. They don't have time for this, the lip service. Let's really be about it, because we're in a pandemic still, and we're seeing the numbers drop, but people are still triggered and traumatized. You take off that mask now, and it's like, yo, I don't have my mask on. I can't breathe. I'm starting to cough. What's going on?
You don't sneeze more than twice. Don't you sneeze more than twice, because the whole room gonna shift on you. Trust me.
Right. So, Pastor, as we wrap up this conversation, you have any closing comments? What would you say to other clergy out there? Because you have no idea how many I have emailed to be a part of these conversations and how many have not responded. And like you said, when they see one do it, they're like, oh, well, Ced can't up me. Dante, get me on your show, Doc. I got something to say too. But what would you say to pastors out there that are still kind of confused and not sure of how to introduce conversations about science and research to those who really live spiritually, if you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. Well, I think it has to be a mind shift. It has to be a shift from, I've even shifted my wording. I used to say, my congregation or my congregants. No, it's people who are entrusted to your care. And when you realize that these are people that are entrusted to your care, you care for them holistically. You don't care for them with how you want to care for them. You treat them same way a doctor treats patients. A doctor don't come in, well, all I'm going to do is say that you got heart problems. No, run your tests and come back with a comprehensive result. As pastors, we have to put ourselves in a position to wherein we truly operate like doctors, and we care for the people and meet them where they are and feed them where they are hungry. Scriptures tell us that if a man needs a jacket, you don't give him a plate of food. If a man is hungry, you don't offer him a place to stay. You got to meet people where they are. And as pastors in this season, coming out of, if you want to say we're coming out of this thing, they got to be open to science. You got to be open to politics. You got to be open to policy, advocacy. All of it is on the floor, and we got to take advantage of it.
I love it, sir. Great summation. Great talk. I appreciate it. And I'm going to share this far and wide. I'm going to give it to you to share on your page. Let your folks know they missed the dynamic talk. And I'm going to get you back, for my next round. I got to do like 4 or 5 rounds of this.
Okay.
We're going to make it happen, man. So get back to studying and go work on that doctorate.
Thank you, man. I'm on it. Love you, brother.